Hello and welcome to the Clout Room Podcast post-match reaction. I'm buzzing with that one. What a lovely, lovely result that was. A smash and grab victory, we've called this in the title because it really does feel like that. Definitely chances where Brighton could have threatened us and had more possession. They were at home and they were a good side and they're absolutely going for Europe as well. But this is one for John Townley. He loves these away victories. It probably wasn't a 3-0 performance, but Villa clinical for a change. Another clean sheet. Matt Lynch, for those that are listening. Have we turned a corner? Are we good again?
I'm not getting ahead of myself just yet, but I have to say, I think we have. When going into this game, you look at it and go, Brighton are banging form. We've come off the back of a high moment, if you like, reaching an FA Cup semi-final, and we know this season that coming off a high moment, we tend to have folded pretty easily in the next game. But we looked up for it tonight. To be honest, I thought that was the main thing. I thought we looked pretty okay, it's fair to say, and that's the sort of result that you crave, an away victory in a way
Yeah.
that from a management point of view, we rode our luck at times, but equally we were deserving of the 3 points quite easily. The chances were even, but in truth, we edged it in the end. And yeah, we've missed those performances, I think, this season. There was a grittiness about it. And yeah, we got away with it. I'm sure we'll come on to with the goal that was disallowed. But as I say, that was messy. But otherwise, yeah, it was a good away performance for sure.
I mean, it must just be us because there's 2 comments already saying it's not a smash and grab. What game were you watching? Denied a Stonewall penalty. Agreed, yeah, but Brighton also had chances to possibly have scored as well. So I think it's because it's away from home that makes me feel like that. If this game was 1-0, I'd have felt exactly the same. The goals have come at Marlins. It should, in a different world, it's a 2-0 game, and maybe it does feel a bit more smash and grabby then. But it felt like the few chances that we had, we've scored from for a change, which doesn't usually happen. We tend to have to create a lot of chances to score few. So to score from most of our chances and keep a clean sheet feels a bit like, right, we're going to your place and we're going to nick 3 points and run away again. That's what I mean by smash and grab. Not that we didn't deserve it.
No, I don't. I think to be fair to us, when we were discussing it, we were saying smash and grab at 2-0 rather than 3.
True.
The last goal's dropped in at the 10th minute of added time, more or less, hasn't it? So, and yeah, as you say, in terms of the chances we actually created, we took advantage of the ones that we had and we finished them off. And in truth, that's the definition of a smash and grab. If you look at the way that we scored those goals as well, both on the counter attack, I'm sorry, but that's smash and grab as you come. If you want for a better phrase, to be honest, literally from a Brighton corner, we scored one of them. That's what smash and grab is. It doesn't mean that you've had one shot on goal all game and you scored from it. So yeah, I'm still content with the idea that it was smash and grab.
Maybe we'll get some good numbers on this episode because people will be clicking on the title going, smash and grab, no way, I've got to go in there and tell them that it isn't. So welcome everyone who's there to do that. Just a great win. Good for goal difference as well. Like I still don't think that goal difference will be a thing come the end of the season, that will have notched it up a little bit further. And I've said before, we looked at the stats of, I think it was something like 20 seasons of Premier League football, and goal difference has only ever decided a European place 2 seasons out of 20 or something. Like, it's going to be that tight. You're looking at 1 more point needed somewhere rather than relying on a good goal difference. But it all counts, it all helps. It's now -1, which is still terrible compared to all of the others, but it's +3 from tonight, which is, again, makes a change. Something, again, that's a little bit under the radar. Rash and grab. Love that comments. Love that. Thank you. 6 wins in a row. That's across all competitions. It's 2 wins against Bruges, Cardiff, Preston, Brentford, and Brighton. So varying degrees of opposition. Some of those are away from home. It's clean sheets in the Premier League against Brentford and Brighton. We've progressed to a cup semi-final throughout that. We've got to the quarterfinals of the Champions League with a tricky away tie at Bruges, where we struggled in the league phase. So whatever you want to say about the opposition, to be in this point of the season now at the start of April and you're winning 6 games on the spin, that's a very good position to be in.
100%, and you can only beat what's in front of you in the end of the day. And if you look at it from our previous 6 prior to that, we didn't look in great shape. And I think it's quite easy to get overexcited at this point, but I think it's quite easy as well to put the Villa down and say, oh, well, you've only played Cardiff, you've only played Preston, you've only played Brugge, all of that stuff.
Understand that,
It doesn't. No, it's ridiculous. A win is a win in the end of the day, whoever it comes up against and who you're coming up against. I mean, Plymouth beat Liverpool. I know it's going back a bit there, but you can't look at these fixtures and go, it should be a walkover victory for us by any means. The expectations. I think the big acid test comes obviously this weekend, playing against Forest, and how we go from there. But the reality is that we've put ourselves back in the picture where, in truth, 6 games ago, you and John Townley were saying that got aim for Europa and Conference League, as I like to remind you. But that's
you did that the last time you were on, didn't you?
Yeah, but now we've won a few games since then, and we're in a much better position. And quite rightly, a few games ago, you'd have been saying that. But no, this is where Unai Emery comes into his own. It's your March into April and May. That's where he comes into his own. That's his specialism. And in the day, that's how we end up in the Conference League a few years ago, and that's how we end up in the Champions League last year. So to do that 3 years in a row, as Ron Saunders once said, do you want to bet against us? Probably not at this point, no. And I think against Forest, we owe them as such, given the last game and how that panned out. I think that we think we've got a performance in us where we could turn them over. And despite Forest's current position, I know we're going off track slightly here, but they're Jekyll and Hyde at times when it comes to these performances, so it could be their off day.
Yeah, absolutely, and it's one of those, isn't it? That 6 weeks ago, whenever it was that we were doubting Villa's credentials for the top 5, it was that it's going to be very difficult. They're going to have to win lots of games on the spin. I know they're not all Premier League games that we're talking about, but I didn't envisage just winning 6 games in a row in any competition. So we've done something that I didn't think we were capable of at that time. So yeah, but of course my opinion is absolutely different now. We're 2 or 3 points off the top 5. Of course you could do it. Beat Forest at the weekend, and I'll be going to get me Champions League patches on all kinds of different shirts just in case. So yeah, football changes very quickly, and we did our Q&A on Monday, and we kind of said something along the lines of, are we now kind of hitting some kind of form at the right time compared to last year, where we were kind of limping over the line a little bit and struggling with injuries and fatigue? Still got pretty much a full strength squad to pick from going into the upcoming games. Ross Barkley is coming back at some point. Leon Bailey will be back at some point relatively soon, you'd have thought. And we're kind of just chipping away and flowing away quite nicely and going under the radar a little bit, picking up good results, scoring goals, keeping clean sheets, full squad to pick from. You throw all those things together kind of with Unai Emery, the puppet master, controlling it all, and you go, maybe Villa can do something here.
Well, the fact that Asensio was on the bench tonight tells you a lot about the squad depth at this moment in time. But equally, Unai's faith in JJ to do what he needs to do, and the rest of that front line as well. And I think that it paid off totally. And the idea that now that Asensio has got, obviously, the Forest game to come up, but potentially you could be in a position where he's even fresher for that PSG game. You start to rub your hands a bit and go, okay, we are banging the pitch. The fact that we've been able to manage these guys' minutes, the fact that we've not had to be concerned about, when we sold Duran, the idea that Watkins are going to have to play every passing minute. The fact that Watkins has eased back in after the international break, given he had that knock going into the international break, is an absolute godsend in truth. So to come out of tonight with 3 points, and the fact that Watkins only came on for, what was it, half an hour, is a brilliant scenario to have going into a weekend and a flow of fixtures which will really separate the wheat from the chaff.
Yeah, there's a comment from Savas who says, streetwise, tough and professional. That's how to play an away game. Now, when it was at 1-0, I thought, in terms of trying to work out what the title was going to be, something about like managing the game or managing the situation well is how it felt, that we've got this squad now to be able to pick and choose from, that we can kind of, I mean, this wouldn't have been at 1-0, it would have been further in, but I was still thinking along the same kind of thoughts of like, we can now just bring on Disasi for a bit, and we can bring on Marlon for a bit for the finals. It's only a little bit, but Tielemans comes off for Nana with half an hour to go. You can change that, give him a bit of a rest. Obviously, Ramsey, Rashford, and McGinn are the ones that come off for Asensio, Watkins, and Onana. You look at most of that bench and think there's an argument to say that probably 5 or 6 of them could be in some kind of starting 11 in different options for different games. So it feels like we're just bubbling along really nicely, and football can change very quickly and come back to bite you, and maybe we do lose a couple of games on the spin and we all feel differently again. But it just feels like I don't know how to describe it properly, which is crap for a live podcast that we're doing, but it just feels like we're I don't know whether it's just down to Emery, but it feels like we're being managed through the situations that are thrown our way, that we're just able to rotate the squad in the right means. We can bring on, maybe Tyrone Mings now plays against Forest, for example, because Pau Torres is not suited to a game like that. Or, do you know what I mean? I'm making a real crap point here, but we're just going through things like on our terms. It feels like we're in control of things.
I think we forget here as well how stupid of a run we were given pre the international break because of Liverpool being in the Carabao final
Mm.
and the knock-on effect that had for fixtures for us. We played a ridiculous amount of fixtures in a short period of time, and it's quite easily to get sort of cooped up in the fact that we've played that many games in that period of time and worry about the form that's descended off the back of that. I mean, we drew with Ipswich. We really, really did sort of grind it out against Liverpool and the other games that we had mixed amongst that. But to have that break and now be in this patch of form is excellent, and it's a testimony to where we're heading, hopefully. And you look at the teams around us, and you think Bournemouth are having players back from injuries, but in truth, since those players have come back from injury, they've not looked great. Brighton have obviously lost today against us, and you look at those other teams around us. Fulham again, not
Kind
in
of feels like we're
place.
separating ourselves away from those a little bit, doesn't it?
It does, and I think you're probably in a position whereby after this weekend we might be looking at this and looking around us and going, okay, it's Newcastle and Chelsea that we need to be worrying about here in terms of this fight. And I know you've mentioned Man City, obviously only 3 points off us as well. You're starting to look and go, actually, is it actually that contingent that needs to be more of the ones to be considering and worrying about? I know that we could come here on here come the end of Saturday and actually we're in a bit different position altogether in the sense of Brighton can win, we could lose, whatever happens there. But in the same breath that you look at it and you start to think by the end of this weekend, you've probably got a clearer picture in terms of a few teams that might be separating themselves and suddenly it's a race for Europa League and Champions League rather than battling for Conference League or no European football.
Yeah, it would feel, we're talking here like we've got a healthy points gap above them. We're 1 point ahead of Brighton, 3 of Fulham, and 4 of Bournemouth. So yeah, one match week can change everything. But you like to think maybe another week or two, you kind of start to look, ahead of us rather than look over our shoulder and kind of start to at least cement. Okay, we should be finishing in the top 7 here. Can we punch up any higher though? We're going to do this all over the place. So, comment from Archie Baker's come in and said, "Hey fellas, love the show from Australia." The accent just slipped out there. I didn't even mean to do it. Just wanted your thoughts on Marlon scoring. For me, I was so happy. Hopefully, he gets more minutes against Forest. Absolutely doing this in the opposite order to talk about the third goal in the 100 odd minute or whatever it was, 101st minute. But that was the one I celebrated the most. I'm really happy for him. There's a lot of talk about Marlon over the last, since he's been here, really. Getting goals disallowed, not being in the Champions League squad. Why is he not coming on against Cardiff for? Surely this is a game for him. Oh, it turns out he's ill, and then he's not really available for the games after either. Maybe oh no, he's not in the Champions League squad. You kind of forget, don't you? It's really been a pretty rocky start for him, and of him to be one of the only, with Garcia as well, the only January signing who is a permanent and will theoretically be here next year. He seems to be having the toughest time of it because it's the Rashford and Asensio show, and it still is again today anyway because they've scored as well. But all the January signings scoring goals is exactly what that winter window is for, to impact the team in the here and now. And because of the narrative that's been around it, for him to get in a good position and get a shot away and it find the bottom corner through the defender's legs. Just delighted for him, really, really happy for him, and I hope it gives him some confidence and his teammates and the manager, which they'll be at Bodymore anyway. He's not going to be kind of dragging his feet and kicking up a fuss there, but he's got his goal. You will be needed, mate. We're going to have games where we've got a lot of football to play. You've got a role here, and I was buzzing for him.
No, there's a huge role for him, and I think the main takeaway that I think people are quick to forget is the fact there's 5 substitutes now in every game. I think people do forget that. So it's not necessarily about starting games anymore. It's about the impact you have off the bench.
Yeah.
I mean, many times this season we've seen Unai flip things at half time and change multiple personnel. So for me, I'm not too concerned if Marlon doesn't start. It's about what he does when he gets on the pitch. And as long as he's scoring goals, then if he comes up for 5 minutes or half an hour, starts the game, as long as he's doing that, I don't think anyone's going to be too concerned. And to be honest, I don't think he'd be either. And that can be the same said for any of those other guys that perhaps find themselves on the bench more often than not at the moment. They've still got a huge role to play at the club. And obviously he's the only permanent signing that came in on January, but obviously Garcia did as well, but from the forward line point of view. And for me, the big play is for him next season. I think I said previously that the big play with that one is getting that business done early ahead of the summer. I think the long-term play is he comes into his own next season, and Nuno's got a plan to suit that. Whether that's Bailey going or whatever, that's another conversation. But buzzing for him to get that goal tonight because that'll give him a heap of confidence, and there's still a huge amount of football to be played this season. I'm pretty sure he'll have a say on where we finish this season.
Yeah, 100%. It's very easy to forget how much football is left to be played when you're being critical of players. Even like someone like Bailey, who has rightly been criticised this season because he's obviously been nowhere near as good as last year. But I mean, to the extent of like, oh, he should never play for us again, and he's terrible, and all this. We should have got rid of him, and all that kind of thing. When there's so much football to play, and Villa are still in things and are in games that will be decisive to progressing to the next stage of a competition or actually winning a trophy. I think we were saying similar things. Well, I might be getting confused with somebody else, but I seem to remember saying similar things about Zaniolo last year. Like not really impacting things all the time, a little bit of a luxury to some extent that you don't really know what you're going to get for him, but stick with him because maybe he scores the winning goal in a Conference League semi-final. You know what I mean? There's still something. There's some narrative to play out somewhere. So I'm never going to write Marlon off because what if he scores the winner in the FA Cup final or something? Like, has a massive impact on this season. Still so much games to play, and he's still got a lot of talent. It's just that he's struggling to get into the side because there's a hell of a lot of talent already in it. That's the nature of us building a good squad.
Oh, absolutely, and it's a healthy composition to have at this stage. And if they're all scoring goals, it's a problem. It's a nice problem to have, isn't it?
Yeah, absolutely. Let's do our man of the match episode, man of the match section, and see if we can pick 3. It's everybody's favourite section. It's time for the Man of the Match award, and we're going to pick our top 3 in order. And if there wasn't 3 good players, it's a bit of tough, isn't it? Now, this is one of those ones where it probably is difficult to pick out 3 definitive players because, as you and I have said, Matt, this does feel like a smash and grab. And in the instance of a smash and grab, there aren't many players that play to a man of the match standard because we haven't been the best team in the match, in our opinion, at times. So I think it's very easy to pick 3 in the sense of we've scored 3 goals. So do you just give it to the goal scorers because they've had the impact on us getting the 3 points? Maybe. I mean, Marlon's 110th minute getting him a man of the match vote is very sympathy man of the match vote, isn't it? So probably not. Rashford starts off the victory, if you like. So I think he's probably deserving of being in there, being trusted to lead the line again. I'll get your thoughts on that in a second. Asensio, I've said before, feels a bit like a cheat code. Like, how are we allowed to bring him off the bench? Like, is that allowed? Can we just double check the rules somewhere? Can we bring him off the bench all the time and impact goals, score goals, and yeah, unbelievable. Potentially Rodgers, who I thought had a quiet game but got 2 assists, so again has impacted on us picking up the points. Or Kamara, because it's always bloody Kamara, isn't it? He's just so good.
Kamara's always in your top 3, the same as Tielemans should be. Tielemans in this case didn't play the full game, so he's out of the pitch.
Kamara, he's just another level, isn't he?
It's Kamara tonight. I think that Rodgers should get his flowers because that ball for the Rashford goal, which I'm sure we'll come on to, is sublime. And the running that he's done to play that ball in for Asensio, the cut back again, is a brilliant ball and delivery. So again, he's got to be in that top 3. And your third one, it's probably a toss-up. I thought Cash had a good game. I thought Pau, considering he's not started the game since injury, to come in there tonight and do what he done is pretty special. And his passing range, I think we've missed massively. Throughout. And in truth, it was very much a team performance. You could list numerous players that perhaps didn't have the standout games, but were solid and did what they needed to do as their jobs and what they were assigned to do, and it's paid off. So yeah, your top 3, Kamara, Rodgers, and then take your pick on 3 or 4 in terms of that final spot for me.
Yeah, I might try and get the comments to work out who the other options could be. You're right. I think there's probably a few players that played like a solid 6.5, 7 out of 10 and contributed to help us win the game. But how many of them were 8s or 9s to be man of the match probably is a different conversation. Because I thought Rodgers generally was pretty quiet and not the kind of swashbuckling, to use Matt Kendrick's phrase, Morgan Rodgers that we're sometimes used to, but in the decisive moments has stepped up and got a couple of assists. In the same way that when Asensio plays well, and there was a comment a few weeks ago about, well, if you take away his goals, though, he didn't really do much. Yeah, but the goals were what changed the game. So Rodgers didn't do much apart from set up a couple of goals, which helped Villa win the game. So the first one is an unbelievable ball. I could tell in real time that Rashford was onside and probably in his own half, and then the replay shows he was well inside his own half, and we broke very quickly. And Rodgers has not just seen the opportunity to put Rashford in behind because he knows he'll get to it, but the ball's in a brilliant area as well to run onto at just the right weight and drop in the right area. And Brighton goalkeeper makes a bit of a hash for it, doesn't really know whether to come or go, and that opens up the opportunity for Rashford to get the chance away in the first place. But the combination of the ball was great. I thought the finish was really good as well. Like that's a forward who scored lots of goals in his career and just knows what kind of finish to deploy in that situation. Yeah, very good goal that.
Yeah, no, absolutely. It was at the end of the day, he knows where he's standing. If you look at it when Martinez first plays that ball, he's probably just short of the 25-yard line on the pitch.
Mm.
So to make up the ground he has and still remain on side for the moment that Rodgers pulled the trigger on that ball is pretty special. And to hold off the defender and dink it over Verbruggen, I know he's made a bit of a meal of it as such, but to do what he's done, it's a lovely finish. And for me, that's Rashford at his very best, and we're seeing the best of him. I know that the weekend, everyone's going, "Oh, don't get ahead of yourselves just yet," but tonight, that's what Rashford does best when he's playing
Yeah.
off the back of the defender like that. Granted, not playing off the back of him in that scenario because he's staring right at him and then he's on half. But you get the points that he's playing on that line and he's running in their channels or taking in that opportunity where he's got the run on the defenders. He knows he's going to beat them for pace and skill. And it's a lovely finish. It's such an important goal at that moment in the game because it killed a lot of the full momentum that Brighton had in the second half. And it really pulled something towards our favour at that point. Obviously, from there on, we've killed them off again on the counter again. But that moment in time, yeah, it's a really important junction in the game. And for him, it's a special moment because he's been crying out for that Premier League goal with us and just improves those stats even more and makes you go into that scenario of don't fall in love with a lone player. But I'm starting to fall in love with Marcus Rashford as well as Marcus Asensio at this point now.
I saw a tweet from Neil from the For the Love of Paul McGrath podcast saying he's getting married soon and he's worried he's going to say Marco Asensio's name at the aisle instead of his wife's name. Yeah, it's just so good, isn't it? It's just a good time when you're winning games. Yeah, what do you make of Rashford as the 9, as the centre forward? Because there's a lot of comparisons, obviously, to Ollie Watkins normally plays in that position, and we're not going to go into it now because we do it all the time about what Watkins brings to the system and all that kind of stuff. And people will make comparisons that if that was Watkins in that position, would he have finished it? Some will say probably not, and I'm probably inclined to agree. But I also feel like Rashford is better in the wide areas rather than down the middle. But he's played a couple of games now at centre forward because Watkins is still struggling for fitness, I think, and possibly confidence as well. What do you think?
Yeah, I think it's important that we've got that option and dynamism. I think that's what Emery wants in his forward line. It's why Marlon's in the picture as well, because Marlon can play as that number 9 as well quite easily and quite comfortably. So for me, it's about the diversity of that forward line whereby we can chop and change, and it'll be a different opponent for a different game. I mean, tonight it's the perfect scenario because it's clear we wanted to hit them on the break anyway. So to have Rashford as the last man, if you like, is the perfect scenario because Ollie Watkins is a very different player in that sense. And it's very easy to go, Watkins wouldn't have scored that, blah, blah, blah. But in truth, they're very different players and what they bring to that team. The off-the-shoulder running, the extra work rate that Watkins brings to that side of second line should never be underestimated. But what Rashford does is that direct line with the pace, hot-footed, off the back of the defender, as we've discussed. And he's finished that tonight because of the way he plays his football. So, yeah, for me, I would never draw comparisons between them. I think it's important to have different strikers available to us in terms of stylistics and tactics. And it's no one size fits all in terms of what Emery wants from his team. And it's shown tonight with what Rashford's contributed. And yeah, fair enough. He didn't do what you'd expect at times from him as a number 9 position, but they put the ball in the back of the net, and that's all I care about as a striker, to be honest. And what I want to see from my strikers is in contributions from a goal perspective.
Yeah, I'm inclined to agree. I prefer him out wide because I'd like that to mean that Watkins is also in the team as well. But maybe they're too similar in some ways that they want to occupy some of the same spaces. But I still think for what we want to do in the system we play, Watkins is Emery's man, and if he's 100% fit, he starts up front and Rashford goes back out wide again, I think. But he's dangerous in those areas, Rashford, with pace and running at the fullback or running in between the fullback and the centre back and trying to cut inside, edging into the box, which he did in the first kind of 10 or 15 minutes and put it wide. And those are the areas that I want to see him in rather than the number 9. I just think we generally, and this probably doesn't make much sense after he's just scored a couple of goals against Preston and tonight playing number 9, but I think generally Villa play better as a unit in attacking areas with Watkins up front as the focal point and Rashford to be in and around. But Rashford's played 2 games up front and scored goals. So what happens against Forest? I don't know. Does Watkins come in? that's a conversation for near the time, I suppose. The second goal, Asensio, it's a nice finish. Although actually, I suppose we've got to talk about VAR. It's just reminded me because there's a VAR check for that for whether Watkins fouled the defender in the build up, and then was he potentially offside and interfering with play? That's complete nonsense. The Asensio finish, not much to say about it apart from it's a good cutback from Rodgers. Great finish again from Asensio, I thought, to put it in that position, picked his spot perfectly. Rewind into the VAR. It's got to be the Ramsey one, isn't it? We talk about first the most the most blatant penalty you'll ever see not given.
I cannot believe that they said there's not enough interference.
Shall I read the PL statement?
What was the exact wording on it? It was along those lines, wasn't it?
They tweeted it from the PL Match Centre, which usually just says, this is not verbatim. It's kind of like, well, we looked at it and we agreed with what the ref said. That's pretty much what all those tweets ever say. This one says, the referee's call of no penalty to Aston Villa following a challenge by Hinshelwood on Ramsey was checked and confirmed by VAR. That's pretty much the kind of the first part of, well, yeah, we knew that, mate. With the contact deemed not to reach the threshold for a foul. Now, I've seen that a million times, as everybody else has. If that's stopping a counter-attack on the halfway line, it's a yellow card and a foul. Like literally everywhere on the pitch, you make that contact, it's a foul.
They've literally said the words contact. If there's contact in the box,
not enough though, mate. It's the same as the shirt pull, the arm pull at Forest for Rodgers. It was too fleeting. Now it wasn't enough of a foul. There wasn't enough contact.
He's literally megged the defender, and he'd have reached that ball and played a ball back into the box or got a shot off 100%. That ball isn't suddenly running out of play from where it is. Ramsey's in control of that ball and he's been taken out. His foot's been taken from him. It's a bonkers call, to say the least, that is not even considered to be sent to the monitor. They looked at it for long enough. They knew. I don't understand it.
I don't get it at all.
The idea there's a threshold for a foul in the box is nuts to me. As you say, for any other area of that pitch, that's a foul and a yellow card. Ironically, I texted you about 5 minutes before that and said I think Hinshaw would get sent off tonight. And ironically, he'd have been sent off in that moment.
I just don't get how they work out what the threshold for contact is in those positions. He's clearly made contact with Ramsey's boot, brought him down. Yeah, so it's the most blatant penalty you will ever see not given. It's ultimately one of those ones that doesn't matter because we've won the game after that. But at that moment in time, it's 0-0. You want to go and score goals and win games, and that could potentially have changed things that should be given. I've not seen it, but there's a Tarkowski yellow card in the Merseyside derby that should have been a red, apparently. So not a great look for the officials across the Premier League on Wednesday. But it's just crap, isn't it? It's things that we've seen time and time again. And the inconsistencies of the whole process that, as Steve just said, the ref didn't even check the monitor. What on earth is that about? But then they do go and look at the monitor for the Matoma handball. Why? What's the threshold for looking at the monitor? Why is one a check and one isn't in the same game?
The funny thing is with that Matoma one is at first glance I honestly thought it's a goal.
But actually, I thought it was handball in real time.
Yeah. So I thought it was a goal, and then I've watched the slow-mos and you suddenly see it's taken him on the top of the part of the arm, but it's rolled down. It's quite clearly touched his arm. So for me, why is the ref going to the monitor at that point? He looked at the monitor for about a second, saw the ball roll into the bottom half of his arm and gone, oh yeah, it's a handball.
That's the kind of thing they should just tell him that, oh yeah, it's handball, mate.
That's a point where they've gone, oh, let's go to the monitor. It doesn't add up at all. The fact that I had to slow-mo that down so many times as well, when actually quite clearly on the replay, it shows the ball roll down his arm as well.
Yeah.
It doesn't add up at all.
In real time, I thought it was a handball and it hit him like nearer his wrist. And then in the replay, it's like, oh, actually, it's a little bit higher up. And then I think it was in a freeze frame. It's more like his elbow. So yeah, handball, absolutely fine. Like they've come to the right decision in that process. Like that's what it's there for. I get that. But the inconsistency of why they have to go and check it or something is crazy, isn't it? That if it was like a different game, they checked this decision, but in another game they didn't. Okay, different referees, different process, whatever. But the same group of staff, effectively, on the VAR and the referee and the fourth official and everybody else, in the same game, you go to the monitor for one, but you don't go for the monitor for the other, when they're literally both kind of subjective to an extent of just go and have another look at it, mate. It'll take 30 seconds. I thought it was very, very strange. Another thing, just to end the kind of VAR refereeing section, we've said before, we just need a klaxon or something to go off, a kind of crap referee alert. Where's 10 minutes of added time come from at the end?
I've no idea. I'm assuming they've accounted. I mean, And to be fair, Brighton used their full bank of subs, didn't they?
And so did we, and we
And
scored a
so
couple of
did
goals, and
we.
we've time
And I
wasted.
think
But
that
for 10 minutes,
I don't think it needed 10 minutes. It was 2-0 by that point. The game's gone. Let's
yeah.
face it. The Brighton weren't delivering anything else at that point. But yeah, I think in truth, what's happened there is they've had the 10 subs, they've had a couple of VAR delays, and they've gone, yeah, 10 minutes, slap that on. Nobody's going to pay any attention. But I felt like I was watching the World Cup again, or the
Yeah.
Euros even last year. But yeah, it was atrocious to see 10 minutes come on. But as I think Tom just points out, it means Marlon's got his goal. So hey,
True,
you
yeah.
take the positives out of this, don't you? So
True. I was half expecting it to the 10 minutes to have been from the time that my stream stopped working every so often. That probably lost me about 10 minutes of my real life time. Are there any other bits and pieces that you wanted to chat about? Any specific moments from the game? Martinez, possibly, probably the kind of the best and worst of Martinez in a couple of instances. The Matone one that was ruled out,
yeah.
obviously they don't know at the time. He kind of just play on, made a mess of between him and Torres, made a mess of before Adingra pops it in. Not great. Then the save, was it a save? I've seen conflicting reports of whether it was saved or not, whether it just hit the
I thought it was a
woodwork.
save. I thought it was a save, to be honest. Yeah, but the angle they showed it, and again, wasn't the best, to be
I know
honest.
some people in the comments would have seen better clips of it since than we have at the time. So if he did save it, let us know, because if it is, it's a great save. I think he did. But again, makes a couple of good saves.
Liam said it was a big hand. I thought he
didn't hit the bar. Wow,
it wasn't the bar, it was the post.
The post, yeah. I thought it hit the post.
Yeah, same thing. Yeah. You know,
did he push it onto the post then? So Liam says he did save it, but it didn't hit the bar. But did it hit the post though?
It hit the far post, definitely. Yeah, same thing.
Yeah, okay. Hit the woodwork.
I'm concerned, but yeah, it's a great save. But yeah, I think, to be honest, this season we've had that most games with Emmy.
Yeah,
you see the worst of him in most games at the moment.
He's not been his usual standard, has he?
Captain Chaos has been taken away from John Duran and given to Emmy, I think, at the moment. But he did what he does best, and he helped us with his game management perfectly well. And the end, he's pulled off a lovely save at the end where he's nearly got lobbed as well. So it's collectively, it's a good performance from him, and hopefully, most importantly, it's a clean sheet. And for his sake, I just want him to have the consistency of a front line, a back line in front of him that knows their own name week after another, because they're playing with each other week after week, rather than it being a slapdash approach to different players every week because of injuries. And at the end of the day, I'm not going to give Emmy too much stick anyway, because he's had to deal with so many different centre backs pairings, etc. As the season's gone, it's ridiculous.
Yeah. There's still people in the comments arguing about whether it's a smash and grab or not. So keep that coming for the engagement. Sai says, agreed, John. 3-0 isn't smash and grab. I mean, the result itself doesn't look or doesn't sound like a smash and grab.
As we've described, the smash and grab is not what they're thinking it is in this scenario.
Because the third goal's come in the final seconds of the game.
On both occasions, the first two goals were based on a counter-attacking moment where Brighton were dominating at that moment in time.
Even the commentator said it was against the run of play.
Yeah.
I think the people that probably up in arms about whether it was a smash or grab or not probably aren't XG fans, but if they are, Brighton created 1 XG whilst Villa created 1.2. So the chances created in the game should have had Villa have a very marginal lead and very little between the two sides. So by definition, it wasn't a 3-0 game, so it is a smash and grab. And who cares? We're all on the same page here. Villa have won, that's the main thing, whether it's smash and grab or not. I think I'm pretty much done with the game, unless there's anything else you can think of.
I don't think so. No, just a nod to Emery. I think his substitutions this season have been superb. I think last season he could be perhaps accused of not reacting quick enough, but the bench perhaps didn't lend itself to reacting to in-game moments quicker. But this season he's been so hot on that, especially since those extra players that have come into the team as well. I think he's been excellent on that front. So the reactivity of him this season has been second to none in terms of substitutions. It helps when the subs are there to make a difference and can make a difference off the bench, but still to have the intuition to make those changes in game is a huge positive for us. Long gone are the days of Trezeguet for El Ghazi and vice versa. We're in a different world now in terms of those substitutions. And in truth, it's hard to predict what subs are going to come out as such because of the nature of the way he's managing these days.
And it's a kind of a good sign of the element of trust, isn't it, as well, between Emery and his support squad, if you like, that whatever 11 plays, he's not scared or worried about bringing Tielemans off for Onana for the final 30 minutes and just hope for the best. He knows that he's going to help carry out the same game plan, and they all know what is required of them, and we've got options to pick from now. So it would be foolish not to use them, because it's those options that will help us either see out games or turn the result of a game and pick up points where maybe we don't expect to. So, yeah, I'm getting distracted by the comments about the slash and grab thing. I'm gonna have to let
got it wrong.
I'm gonna have to let it go.
I must point out, we decided on this title quite a bit of time before full time. It's probably fair to say.
Yeah, I probably should have maybe changed it before we started. It's too late then.
Yeah.
Somebody earlier said, I've just tweeted Adam Hurrey from the Football Cliches podcast for his take on Smash and Grab. He has a page in his book
already, haven't we?
Yeah, I've got his book. Where is it? Oh, I don't know where it is. It's up there. It's too far out of reach to get it, and find the page specifically. Yeah, whatever. Who cares? Villa Wood. That's the main thing. What I did want to ask you about, just because it's you and you're somebody different, is PSG and Palace, just very quickly. So away from tonight, that PSG game is very tasty. And before we get into that, I'm just going to play a quick clip. So for those that are listening, I'll stick this into the edit afterwards. But we've got Darren Fletcher on the podcast tomorrow. Obviously, TNT Sports lead commentator, has covered Villa in the Champions League, is doing the first leg, I think, against PSG on TNT with Ali McCoist, and I don't think they've got the second leg. I don't. Obviously, it's on TNT, but I don't think he's doing the second leg. We've got a podcast with him that Matt Kendrick did. It's about 45 minutes. It comes out Thursday afternoon. I put together a little trailer I'm going to post in this now, just to give it a bit of a tease for that. Then we'll come back and chat about PSG after it.
The big nights at Villa this season have been sensational. It just sets the tone for the night. The crowd have been magnificent. So they're doing all the crying as we're walking down, and me and McCoy found it hilarious. We were then serenaded with a chant of, "You've only come to see the Villa." But we had only come to see the Villa, so they were absolutely right. I always get great satisfaction out of people who go to Villa Park for the first time and then come back and tell me, A, how big a club Aston Villa are and what a great ground Villa Park is to watch a game. Like, it's only just been opened. I think it took them 20 minutes in Bern to work the pitch out, and then after that, they looked like they really belonged in the Champions League. When they played Bayern Munich, there was never a feeling on the night that they weren't going to win the game. If Aston Villa knock out Paris Saint-Germain, there is not a team in the Champions League that will test them as much as they do. So at that point, you can all start to dream, because they are as good as anything left in the competition.
I think Rodgers needs to play through the centre. I think that's where he's at his best. He can play off the right. He can probably play off the left as well.
He's been one of the better players that I've seen anywhere all year. His progress over the course of this season has been magnificent. I think that's one of the best clearances I've ever seen. I think Detective McCoist was onto the little clearance quicker than most. I feel a bit for Tyrone Mings, because he must be thinking, what's this European stuff all about? I think he's played 4 Champions League games and 3 are against Bruges. So somebody needs to explain it does get better as you move on. So he's going to get a real taste for it in the Parc des Princes. I'm excited because I'm going to be pulling for Villa to get through, because I want this journey to continue, because I'm enjoying being part of it. I'm enjoying being on it with everybody. I would love Aston Villa to be in the final in Munich. It would be absolutely sensational, wouldn't it? So I'm with you. Don't worry about that. I'm with you. Up the Villa.
Well, I'll tell you what, we could all do with a smash and grab away at the Parc des Princes, couldn't we? That would be absolutely lovely. That episode is out tomorrow, Thursday, probably around lunchtime, maybe a little bit later, but it's absolutely worth your time. I can kind of big it up because I'm not on it, because otherwise it'd be very arrogant. But Matt's got the best out of Fletch. There's some really, really good lines in there, and it's well worth 45 minutes of your time. PSG, Matt, excited, nervous, apprehensive, scared? What do you think?
Can I just quickly say, I saw somebody seems to think I'm disrespecting Trezeguet. He's saying that I'm a mug for gaining its sake because he kept his. It wasn't to do with that. You'd understand the context on Villa Twitter back in the day. Everyone used to take the mick about the same substitution happening all the time. So anyway, that's by the by. When it comes to, first of all, Fletch, an absolute legend. Love listening to him talk about football and the respect he's got for Villa. He's
very passionate.
Villa Talks have commented the same, and I echo that. He's a fantastic guest to have on because he really understands the football club, and he's really got a lot of time for it as well, and he's been on that journey with us as well. But I listened to the Ranks FC podcast, plug for a different podcast, apologies, that Sam Ty's sometimes on today, and they were talking about PSG as the prospect of them playing against Villa. And I think, in truth, when you look at that game as a whole, I've been thinking, I'm dreading this going to the Parc des Princes, but I come out of that podcast, and since then I've been thinking we're going to do it. We're going to go there and nab a 1-0. We only need one chance. But I look at it that way because I look at the way that Liverpool approached the away leg of the game, and we could do exactly the same. And is Unai Emery in charge of that team, and with the extra bite of Asensio being in the team and what Rashford has produced every time he's turned up in Paris, I look at it and go, genuinely, as cliche as it is, do you really want to bet against us in that scenario, going away to Paris and getting a result? I genuinely think we've got a chance. It sounds so deluded to even think the idea of that, but to go there and get a result, I can see it. And the fact that we've got a home leg at Villa Park as well amongst that is the cherry on the icing, isn't it? I mean, I'd take anyone on at Villa Park, and arguably PSG are the best team in that competition. But if you isolate Dembele, you look at their forward line and go, yeah, they're chipping goals, but not as many as what Dembele's produced for that team. And you go, yeah, isolate him, bring it on. And I think that Boubacar Kamara is one of the best midfielders in the world right now. So anything can happen. I mean, we could get turned over 5-0 quite easily. But I think in the same breath as that, we can go there and potentially beat them 1-0. Who knows?
Yeah, I said
I'm buzzing for the idea of it, but I'm filled with dread because I fear if we concede what may happen. But I'm not thinking about that at this moment in time because I just think we can get something from there.
Yeah, we've got to be, as Fletch says in the rest of the podcast, it's got to be our best game of the season. Martinez has to play one of his best games of his career. Basically, most of our players are going to have to play to that level to not just to go there and win, but to get into the semi-final, basically, to get through the tie. We're going to have to be really good. Because there's been a lot of talk about PSG, admittedly, on our podcast as well, of either overrating them or underrating them. But in the league phase, they're pretty crap. They've only really been good in the Champions League in the games against Liverpool. And that's 2 games. Before that, Villa were better in the league phase than PSG were. So why are we worried? But PSG are very good. They've got a lot of good players. Yes, their league situation is very different because it's whatever you want to call it, Farmers League or whatever. Like it's a failure if they don't win the league. So almost forget about that. They're going to be good week in, week out. This is now the Champions League. It's a competition that's eluded them for a long time, one they want to win, and they get past us, they'll fancy themselves to go all the way. Of course they will, and they'll be going into it thinking they're favourites. But if Villa play well and play to their best, and Unai Emery cooks up a master plan, and we get away from the away leg still in the game, absolutely we can win at Villa Park, and maybe that's enough to get through. So Jake Alette says it's not a Farmers League. We struggled against Lille and Monaco. So you can kind of dress it up or dress it down however way which you like. If you feel confident about it, yeah, why not? When we do our preview for it, I probably will be backing us to win. I said in our Q&A the other day that if I've got to predict the next run of results, Brighton, Forest, Newcastle, Palace, etc., I want us to win them games, and we're not going to win them all. So I wouldn't be surprised if we didn't win either of the PSG games. And I got called negative for that. The PSG, they might end up in the final. They might win the whole thing. There's no shame in admitting we might not be as good as PSG. Maybe we draw, we lose there. We draw at Villa Park, and that's still like we had a good go. You know, we gave it our best, and we can kind of be proud of that to an extent. But like Jay says, we've struggled against some of the other French teams that we played against in different competitions. So yeah, it's very intriguing. It depends which PSG side turns up. If it's the one from the league phase, we've got every chance. If it's the one that played Liverpool, particularly in that first leg, we've got no chance.
No, totally. And I think the one thing I picked up on as well on this that I just wanted to flag is that from what I understand, the Ligue 1 officials have postponed PSG's game in between the 2 legs, haven't they, again?
Yeah.
The support the league in France gives their teams is second to none, and it's frustrating. I appreciate it's a different story in England because you've got Liverpool. I didn't genuinely mean to say Liverpool there, but it's a shame that obviously it's Arsenal. Sorry, but from that perspective, it's a shame the league isn't supporting that. But I appreciate the knock-on effect of that is then they've suddenly got to support Spurs and Man United in the Europa League and Chelsea in the Conference League as well. So perhaps it's been a bit claret-tinted about that, but it's just frustrating more than anything that they've got that break in between that we haven't. But equally, that might be a blessing or a curse. We don't know, do we?
Yeah. The other one, just very quickly to end this podcast, is Crystal Palace in the semi-final of the FA Cup. Obviously, another big occasion in a totally different competition and a very different opposition, although they also wear blue and red. What are your thoughts on that? What was your reaction to the draw? Were you a bit like, oh, Crystal Palace, or do you see this as an opportunity to get to a final?
There's a few factors to go in here. I feel all of Glasnow's sort of got Emery's number at Selhurst Park anyway. Crystal Palace's form this year has been one of the best in the league by a country mile. They've been excellent since the turn of the year. Those two factors make me go, oh, Crystal Palace, that's the last team I actually wanted to face at this moment in time in that competition. But I look at it and go, it's a real opportunity to turn things around and do something special at Wembley and put ourselves in a position in terms of that big stage. You know, we should be used to these moments now, and we've got big game players now that are used to these moments and delivering these moments, and we're a very different prospect to the one that even turned up away at Palace, ironically, just before the international break, wasn't it, amongst that midst of a ridiculous run of fixtures. But I think we're still a very different team to where then. I know Palace have been at a few cup runs recently, but I back us in that fixture, and I think that one of Forest or Man City have got the game plans in these big matches, but they're not the side of old. But let's get past Palace before we consider that option. But yeah, in truth, you couldn't have had a better draw as such, could we?
Yeah, I'm inclined to agree. There's a little part of me that thinks if it was the final, I'd be much less worried about it, because this is a definitive thing. Like, we have to get the job done today, which is obviously the same as a semi-final. But Palace have that carrot of, it's one more game for us as well. Like, we want to do absolutely everything just to get to the final. So maybe they up their game even further. But I don't know. It's probably not much in that. I think I said before, of all the sides that are left in it, PSG, Palace, Forest, and Man City, if Villa play to their best, they would beat any of those teams in a single one-off game, and that might be disproved if Forest beat us comfortably at the weekend or whatever. But I think if we're at our best and things go our way, obviously, then we have got the squad and the manager to beat all of them. And obviously, we don't need to beat all of them; we only need to beat two of them. So we'll see who turns up in the final if Villa get there. Somebody asked about what kit we're wearing for PSG. I suspect that we're wearing our white kit in both of these games we're talking about, because Palace obviously wear red and blue. I think they've been drawn out as the home team, so they'll wear their home kit unless there's an extra kind of, I don't know, coin toss to work out that kind of stuff in advance. I don't think it works like that. When the balls came out, they were put on like the home side, so I assume they're the home team.
They are. They've been drawn as the home side, I believe.
So they'll wear red and blue, so we have to wear white. We can't wear claret, and we can't wear the navy third strip. The same goes for PSG. They'll play in blue, won't they, at home? We can't play in claret and blue or the navy. So
we'll be in all white for PSG away for sure, and then obviously at home what it is. And then, to be fair, it is a coin toss, as Jay Collette pointed out, actually, for the kit still. So
is it?
We could still end up in claret and blue, but in truth, I'd love us to play in the third kit at the Wembley. I don't know why, but that's obviously the last kit that we're going to be wearing. But I just feel like there's some magic moments in that kit for some reason.
Yeah, maybe. I associate the third kit with the European nights. I think we've worn it the most at some of the European games that we played. Okay, that'll do us, I think. Enjoyable chat. Matt, thanks for joining me as always. Almost 1,000 people on a Wednesday evening at 10:45 is frankly ridiculous. So thank you for tuning into the podcast when there's lots of other Villa podcasts out there. Covered a lot of ground tonight with all of the chat about Brighton, then a bit of Champions League, a bit of Darren Fletcher and a bit of Crystal Palace. We've absolutely got everything covered. That Fletch episode is out on Thursday. There'll be a Forest preview Friday and a Forest post-match Saturday. So plenty going on across the YouTube channel and the podcast feeds. Matt, thank you for joining me. Thanks everyone for watching along live, or if you're listening on catch-up, you can get involved in the respective comment sections on whatever platform you're listening on. We'll see you tomorrow. Thanks for watching or listening, and enjoy the rest of your night. Bye-bye.